There's this piece of classical music called the Devil's Trill Sonata. As you'd probably guess from the title, it's incredibly difficult to play. I've heard it's one of the most challenging works in the entire violin repertoire. But that's not where the name comes from. It's actually way more literal than that. The composer, Giuseppe Tartini, claimed he'd had a dream where the devil himself played the violin for him. The Devil's Trill, he said, was his attempt at recreating what he'd heard. Another famous composer, Niccolo Paganini, was rumored to have sold his soul to the devil. His violin performances were so passionate, so virtuosic, that some people even thought he was a demonically possessed corpse. As one spectator said upon watching him play, the demon Mephisto would have played violin like this. Long after Paganini's time, there were similar stories about the blues musician Robert Johnson. According to legend, he met the devil at a Mississippi crossroads where he exchanged his soul for mastery of the guitar. Johnson added fuel to the rumors himself, writing songs with titles like Crossroad Blues and Me and the Devil. Even when there are no literal demons involved, I feel like I see this idea everywhere. This notion that the more masterful a work of art is, the higher the cost must have been to create it. Think about how many artists have poured countless hours into their work or struggled mentally or physically, all in the name of creation. I think of the animator Yuri Norstein, who's been laboring over the same stop-motion animation for 44 years. Van Gogh, Beethoven, Sylvia Plath, each of their names are practically synonymous with the term tortured artist. The very term tortured artist almost says enough all by itself. Artists are tortured. That's the trope. And not for nothing, I don't think. I can understand where it comes from. If making a masterpiece costs your soul, that's the price these artists are willing to pay. From that angle, it seems almost intuitive. What artist wouldn't want to make a masterpiece? Artists sell their souls. It's just what they do. And we expect them to do it. Maybe I'm a bit biased here, but one of my favorite pieces of literary fan art ever was actually done by our very own illustrator here at Foundry, Owen Norton. Look at this thing. This is how we at Foundry imagine the infamous King in Yellow to look. You might notice that it's a little different from a lot of interpretations. The gilded antlers, the elegant porcelain mask, the crowd of tortured skeletons hidden in the darkness of his robe. I know, I'm a bit of a cosmic horror buff, but I still get chills every time I look at this. It's just a really, really good work of art. And look, here it is hanging on someone's wall, and someone else's, and a bunch of other people's. If you really like this piece, or if you just really love the King in Yellow, or if you just want to support Foundry and everything we do, you can buy your own print right now. It's available in our store for just $20. I promise you, what I'm showing you in this video doesn't do it justice at all. There's so much detail you won't even notice until it's right in front of you. There's even a little tailoid hidden somewhere in there that you can only find in the physical print, just for fun. I can't promise that you won't go mad looking at it. That's just a risk you'll have to take. To get yours, just visit thetalefoundry.com/store or click the link in the description. A big thanks to everyone who buys one. I love this piece, and I hope you will too. The movie Black Swan follows Nina Sayers, a ballerina who desperately wants to be perfect at what she does. This is her one goal in life. When her ballet company announces that they'll be putting on a production of Swan Lake, she's determined to play the lead. She's worked hard for it, and it shows. With her precise technical skill, she nails the part of the White Swan. But in this particular production of the ballet, Nina is also cast as her doppelganger, the sultry, dangerous Black Swan. And it's a much harder role for her, even with all the skills she's developed. No matter how hard she tries, she just can't seem to do it. She's too restrained, too disciplined, too innocent. The Black Swan is the exact opposite of everything she is. And so, we get to watch as, in a single-minded drive to be truly perfect, Nina gradually gives up everything. You might notice that this story is a bit different from the ones we've discussed so far. There's no literal devil in this one and no precise contract. But Nina is still an artist, and she's still making the same old deal. She's offered an opportunity to seize the perfection she craves, but it comes at a serious cost. She makes the same sort of sacrifice that might be familiar to many creatives at the crossroads. Here, artistic perfection isn't just a matter of knowing the right choreography. It's something destructive, intimate, transcendent. As Nina's ballet director tells her, it's a matter of losing yourself. Nina takes this advice very seriously. She pushes her mind and body to the extreme, practicing at the studio long after everyone else has left. She embraces a bolder, riskier lifestyle, resulting in immense guilt after a lifetime of repression. As the pressure mounts, she experiences a nightmarish identity crisis, one that only worsens the more determined she gets. She's unable to reconcile the two shattered halves of herself, the disciplined white swan and the chaotic black swan. By the night of the ballet, she can't even recognize reality anymore. She's too far gone, rapidly spiraling into hallucinations and paranoia. Over the course of the movie, Nina sacrifices her health, her sanity, even her self-concept, just to give the perfect performance. And she does. It works. Her final performance, her swan song, if you will, is so good, it doesn't seem possible for a human being. She's become a force of passion, a furious flurry of feathers and tulle. All of her effort and pain is channeled into this one spectacular moment. It's so intense that after she dances the white swan's death, she actually ends up dying. She bleeds out on stage and doesn't even notice until it's too late. She's caught up in the moment, the bliss and relief of finally feeling perfect. This was the deal that she made. She could achieve the impossible, but in exchange, she literally had to lose herself. She wasn't just performing, she believed she actually was the Black Swan. She became her art, and it killed her. I can't say whether the movie offers a final conclusion about the nature of this choice, whether Nina did the right or wrong thing here, but there is this suggestion that I find really interesting throughout the story, that this is just the price of great art. It's costly and destructive. Perfection is only possible through the loss of your identity, your humanity. The conclusion here is an obvious, familiar one. If you sell your soul, your art will be incredible. That is the cost. Oscar Wilde once said that all art is quite useless. It's a statement I actually find I agree with. I don't really think art is supposed to be useful. Its value doesn't come from its utility, but from how you perceive it. So much about art is subjective. It only means something if you give it meaning. Which, if you think about it, implies a sort of cruel irony to this idea of artists selling their souls, doesn't it? It's a high price to pay. And what are you getting in return? Something useless? Isn't that a raw deal? A grift? And if it is, how do so many artists fail to see it? There's this short story by E. Lily Yu that I love. I listened to it in Clarkesworld magazine years ago, and it's always stuck with me. It's called Daedalum, the Devil's Wheel, and it offers a perspective on this whole dynamic that I don't think I've seen anywhere else. It centers around a bargain between an animator and a demon, and it's told from the demon's perspective. That alone is enough to make it stand out, but this story is even more unusual in the way that this particular demon works. It doesn't just offer one deal, as is usually the case, it offers several. In the end, we don't even get to know which one the animator chooses. The only thing that matters is he does agree to one of them. The demon's first offer? Amazing art skills at the cost of 9,000 sleepless nights with the demon. It's a familiar trade-off, art for exhaustion. When the animator hesitates, the demon makes a second offer. It suggests giving the animator a promotion, with the caveat that he'll be divorced from his work. He'll be a director, respected in the industry, but everyone else will draw for him, and he'll inevitably grow distant from his own art. When neither of these offers manage to convince the animator, the demon makes a third. It's a comparatively simple one. What it will give the animator is hunger. He can follow in the footsteps of all the revolutionary artists of the past. He'll chase groundbreaking, innovative techniques. He will forever push his talents to their absolute limits, but he'll also live in fear. Fear of the future. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of becoming obsolete. Ultimately, it doesn't matter which one the animator chooses. It doesn't even matter if he makes a choice at all. The demon always wins. It's been winning this entire time, as it tells him, "You are mine, and always were." This demon doesn't just promise artistic gifts. It doesn't just appear to artists because they're easy targets. The demon is art itself. It exists in everything from the first spark of inspiration to the constant frustration of never being enough. The moment the animator chose to become an artist, he'd already sold his soul. He knows what art costs, regardless of what he chooses to do, and he creates it anyway. I think this is a truth that almost all artists learn to accept. Art always requires some sort of sacrifice. It might not always be extreme as your mortal soul, but whenever you create something, there's a cost. You put valuable time into it, effort, resources, imagination. Sometimes it does take even more than all of that, but for all art requires of you, it's ultimately useless. Inherently absurd. It has no implicit utility, no meaning all on its own. The animator in Daedalum knows this. He's aware of what he's giving up for something meaningless, and he still makes the deal, just like every other artist before him. Hayao Miyazaki's films are legendary. My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, these are triumphs of animation and storytelling, each one a masterpiece in its own right. Everything about them is artfully, intentionally, painstakingly crafted. They are every bit the perfect dream of the aspiring artist, Miyazaki every bit the role model. Or so you'd think. In the first volume of his biography, Starting Point, he talks about just what it takes to create art of this caliber. Behind each cell of this stunning animation is a whole team of workers laboring for hours at every step of the process. Miyazaki describes the Japanese animation industry as an impossibly grueling one. The workplace is chaotic, he says, inhumane to the extreme. The work is tedious and exhausting. Many of the employees in the studio are only there after falling into debt. There's a particular anecdote Miyazaki shares in this book. It's about one person who he remembers specifically for how much work she shouldered, more than anybody else. She worked in the studio as a finish inspector. It was her job to supervise the tracing and coloring and meticulously check every single frame of animation for errors. Whatever work anyone else did, it all ended up at her desk. She barely got 2 hours of sleep a night. She was at the studio day and night and only went home to do laundry. Her eyes were bloodshot from inspecting thousands of hand-drawing frames every day. She worked so hard, at one point she ended up hospitalized from exhaustion. And once she was out, she went right back to work. Miyazaki was concerned for her, but he also admired how dedicated she was. He even admits that he felt jealous of her impossible work ethic. The finish inspector was irreplaceable, not just a cog in the machine, but an artist in her own right. This sort of tireless labor, Miyazaki believed, was necessary for great art to exist. Miyazaki had especially high ambitions for the project they were working on at the time, the anime adaptation of Heidi. He wanted it to, quote, go beyond the limits of normal television. As he saw it, all this hard work was a sacrifice for their audience. He didn't just want the children watching the show to be entertained. He wanted to inspire them. This wasn't just another daytime cartoon. There was no room to cut corners. This show, Miyazaki believed, would give its audience something valuable, something that most mainstream animation just did not have. In some ways, I do find that admirable. He took his audience seriously. I can respect that. But here's the thing. Miyazaki felt that the show had to mean something. Remember what Oscar Wilde said? All art is quite useless. It's fundamentally an absurd thing. It doesn't have inherent meaning. If you follow that logic, Miyazaki was trying to make art that transcended that absurd quality. That's why he believed that a project like Heidi took so much dedication. Without workaholics, he wrote in Starting Point, Japan's animation industry could never be sustained. This kind of art isn't absurd. It's not supposed to be useless. It's something else. Art that's more than art. And there is a monumental price attached to it. To create art that means something, that has some kind of objective value, the price could be no less than your soul. I have complicated feelings about all of this. It's not an easy topic. I want to look at the tortured artist archetype and just say, no, it doesn't have to be like that. I want to believe David Lynch when he says that suffering is the enemy of creativity. But I look at all of these artists and all of these stories, all of the artists that I know personally, and I don't know, I don't think they're all just dumb or foolhardy or something. They all knew what they were signing up for, and they suffered the consequences. If an artist wants to make sacrifices for their art, even to suffer for it, who am I to say that they can't? It's their soul. They get to choose what to do with it. I wish I could say that art is always gratifying in the end, that it always feels good to create, and that worthwhile art should make you feel good. But I can't say that, because I don't think that's always the case. Art is hard to make. It's costly. More often than not, the creative process is a painful one. I don't think the question to ask is whether artists should suffer for their work. I'm more interested in this. Why is the exchange happening? And what is it for? Art may be useless. It may have no meaning, no specific utility. In a way, that makes the artist's sacrifice something incredibly pure and beautiful. The art, to them, is worth whatever it may cost. But if you're making it because you see it as your key to some concrete outcome, if it's supposed to be useful, full of meaning, transcendent, I think that's the deal with the devil. When it's supposed to be something beyond art, when the act of creating art becomes a bartering chip for some other thing, the thing you really want from it, that kind of sounds like a raw deal to me. Because really, you can only sell your soul if there's a contract for it. Okay, one thing we didn't talk about here is the sort of romance surrounding the tortured artist. How many people kind of idealize the suffering itself for its own sake. Art is hard. Even if you like it, it takes effort. But there are subtle little things you can do to make it just that much easier. The biggest of them all? For my money, it's learning tangential skills. Things that aren't directly related to the creation of the art, but that influence it. Filling the holes in your ability to imagine with new information. Which is why, for 10 minutes a day, I've been trying to learn algebra. Math is, by far, my biggest creative blind spot. I tend to avoid doing it wherever I can. But this, it's kind of working for me, weirdly. Part of the reason why, I think, is that the way I'm doing it it doesn't feel like homework. It just feels like learning. I tune in, spend a few minutes working through problems, and tune out again when I'm done. My place is saved, ready for me to come back tomorrow. It is almost concerningly easy. If I'd known maths could be this simple to learn, I'd have done it way before now. The program I've been using to do all of this learning is called Brilliant. I know you've probably heard about it a zillion times from YouTubers by now, but that's honestly because it is actually that good. The courses are tailored to your skill level, whether you're an expert or a beginner. You can customize your learning time to your daily schedule, so even if you only have 5 minutes to spare, you can still get some practice in. And it's not just for math. Brilliant has courses on logic, programming, physics, and a bunch of other stuff. It's a great way to get an actual education right there on your computer, right there on your phone. To give Brilliant a try, visit brilliant.org/tailfoundry or scan the QR code on screen. You can actually get started for free. Then, if you want to sign up and get unlimited daily access to everything Brilliant has to offer, you can use the same link to get 20% off an annual subscription. Scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description to get started. Again, that's brilliant.org/tailfoundry for 20% off an annual subscription. Even if you choose to be a tortured artist, not everything in life has to be part of that grind. You can at least make the learning part easy. Give Brilliant a shot. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching and keep making stuff up. I'll see you next week. Bye!